us about Cornerstone, the story of Cornerstone, and then what market do you serve? And just tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Yeah. And I love the name of y'all's program, Flow, because I'm in the plumbing industry.
It's
So,
perfect for you.
yeah. And I always say pun intended, but you've got to be fluid to be a rep
Oh, yeah.
because if I want to scare myself, I'll just look back 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And if I were still like that, I probably wouldn't be in business just because the dynamics of the changes, whether it's distribution, manufacturers, whatever, doesn't matter. But you always have to be looking to change or willing to change and sometimes forced to change. So I grew up, my dad worked in East Texas. He was a plumbing salesman for a large company down there that had multiple divisions and plumbing was just one. And then my senior year, started his own supply house company. And I was off to college. Like I said, never would be in sales, never would be in plumbing, not even on my radar. And I actually went to grad school here at Tulsa University and then got out. And the path I thought I was going to take, I decided that wasn't the best path. So just working here and there, finding my own way. And in 1999, the company I was working with went out of business. Before that, some reps out of Houston, Texas were calling on my parents. And one of them said, "Hey, you know what? We're fixing to expand out of Texas and into Oklahoma and Arkansas." And my mom said, "My son lives up in Tulsa and the company he works for is about to go under." So I always tell people I was hired then. My parents had a good name, but they still wanted to meet with me. I met one of the principals in March of 99 at a trade show. I remember he called, it was a Saturday. There was snow on the ground up here. He said, "Hey, why don't you come up here and talk to me?" I said, "I'm in a sweatshirt, ball cap, jeans." And he said, "No, no problem. Just come up here." He was at a home show. And so I went there and later I found out he called after meeting with me and told me, "Yeah, we got our guy." But they weren't ready to go with a hiree up here until October of that year. The company I worked for went out of business in June. I did some freelance work that summer and got another job. And then October 18th of 1999 was when I became a rep. And I covered all of Oklahoma and Arkansas. I drive about 4,000 miles a month. Would usually put the babies to bed and my wife to bed sometimes. And I would head out at 9 o'clock at night and drive 3, 4 hours into Arkansas to be ready to go the next day. Tried to minimize my time away from home. Cut it shorter now. In 2001, some things had changed with the company I was with. And I had heard about this guy named Ted Perry in Oklahoma City who was looking for someone just for Tulsa. So I met with Ted, and the one consistent description I would hear about Ted is he's a bulldog. When he's onto something, he doesn't let it go. Like he's a very good, aggressive sales guy. And so I decided to go to work for him. And that was in 2001. 2003, we partnered. 2005, I took over the finances of the company. And in 2010, he wanted to scale back. So he moved from the Oklahoma City area to Tulsa, and he's been doing our job quotes ever since. So he works half a day, 5 days a week, but he knocks out over 500 quotes for us per year. We're heavily into the commercial specification work. And in between all that time, there's been another partnership, but as of 2019, came back as sole owner of Cornerstone Sales. We were Ted Perry Sales, then Cornerstone Sales, then HMK, and then Cornerstone Sales again. So that's my journey. I've worked primarily in Oklahoma. We have had Kansas and Missouri and Arkansas as part of our territory throughout those years, and currently even have a manufacturer that I work with and have part of North Texas for their line as well. So that's the 5-minute version of a almost 25-year career.
Yeah, right. That's a lot. And you mentioned to me, we were chatting back and forth, that your perspective might be unique in that you have a smaller territory than some rep firms might, but in some ways you're saying that's a pro and a con. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, when we started talking, I was thinking the first time you reached out to me, I said, "Well, if you think I can offer anything, any kind of information that's helpful, I'll be happy to talk with you." And I got to thinking that is a challenge. There's a lot of small markets out there. I saw one of your programs. You had a new rep. I think he was in New York.
Okay.
Of course, that I know there's a Northern New York reps, and there's some that just cover New York City. And I think the Northern New York reps have more of a smaller territory. But yeah, that we see a lot of challenges. But I said there's also benefits to a smaller market. Let's talk about the good things about it. One good thing about having a rep in a smaller market is number one, you've got the owner in that market working that territory. You don't have a salesman who's traveling into a market. And that's what we see a lot. And a lot of my comparison will be Texas versus Oklahoma. There's no doubt that sometimes we're just like a sidecar. A lot of manufacturers will hire someone in Texas. The Texas guy will say, "Hey, we go up to Oklahoma 2 or 3 times a year. Can we have Oklahoma up there?" The advantages that we have is number one, we are able to see everyone. I know over the years talking with other reps and different divisions of the plumbing industry that in some markets, they just have their core group. They actually don't even touch every single distributor that they possibly could in their territory just because either they're too far apart, too much travel time, not enough employees, maybe too many lines that they've got to keep up with. They've got to target specific accounts. They know where they can grow their business and satisfy the manufacturers. For us, if a manufacturer regional came into town, for instance, we could go see every purchasing agent in one day in Tulsa and probably make it one day in Oklahoma City, but just say two. So technically in 3 days in the two major markets, then we have some other good accounts outside of those markets. So we'll just say in 4 days, you could cover the entire state of Oklahoma. A lot of other larger territories can't do that, especially large cities. It may take them an hour and a half to go from one call to another. I remember in my early days, I could cram in 5 engineer calls in one day. And some of the regionals were shocked about that because, yeah, if they're in Dallas or Orlando or Los Angeles, they may get one or two calls a day. So we're able to impact our territory faster. How does that also help? If we can see our customers in that short of time period, that allows us to expand into the full sales channel. So we have relationships with end users, school districts, colleges, hospitals, any of the large facilities like that we can now go and talk to our products about. Also architects, we do architect calls, we do engineer calls, we do contractor calls. So we can actually impact every stage of a project development. Like I said, we do mostly commercial by having the time to do that because where the money and product is, the transactions are done through distribution, we're able to see them in a short amount of time. It allows us to expand. So that's definitely one positive thing about having a small market is you have more opportunities to reach out to help pull the sale through. The other thing is in some cases, we're able to go beyond just the plumbing industry. Throughout the years, there are some products we've had that we were able to develop into other type of industries, whether it be irrigation, which some people might think is plumbing. That's a completely different type of sales channel than plumbing, or waterworks. We've even had a stocking distributor in the concrete supply business. And that, because we have a small market, we're afforded the time to go and develop that as well. Whereas you go to some of the larger markets, one manufacturer may have 3 to 4 different rep agencies to handle 3 or 4 different industries that their products are sold in. So that's for a small rep, that gives you opportunity to, okay, how can I get growth? I have X amount of distributors, I have X amount of contractors, engineers to go see. You may actually be able to expand your market within your own territory just by now seeing, I know this product is sold here as well. Is there someone that's actually calling on those types of accounts? In a lot of cases that they're not in a smaller market. Like I said, largest cities, there may be 3 or 4 different reps designated per industry, but that's one thing that a small market rep can do is start to grow their business within their state outside of their normal scope.
Got it. So you expand because it's so efficient. Essentially, you can expand other more lines, different products within the same people you're already meeting with. Is that right?
Yes.
And too, you can get, like he's saying too, you get into different verticals like plumbing. To me, I would have thought plumbing and irrigation were maybe one and the same, but that's interesting. That gives you, if you're focused on plumbing, but if you've got the time and dedicate to the irrigation vertical, then that's a whole another set of business relationships that he can go develop and then turn that into really a whole nother market.
Mm-hmm.
And then do you find like what percentage of your business is kind of these new different verticals?
I would say 10 to 20%. You never want to ignore your core. That's where any type of company can get in trouble. do what you do best and make sure that's taken care of before you start looking at other areas. But sometimes you're surprised at how quickly another area will develop. I've mentioned earlier, we've been in other states as well, and that provided growth for us at that time, but also realized that there was just so far that we could go without having someone physically in that market. And I think that's one of the advantages, again, a small market rep can have, because over the last couple of years, we've had some opportunities to take on lines from reps that still had the product in a larger market. We were able to actually show significant growth to those manufacturers just because we're here. We live here. We know the people here. We've been in this market for over 20 years. We're not driving into this market once a month, once a quarter, whatever time period was. We're here every day working it. And because of that, when we have those kind of relationships, even if I go call on to a plumber with brand A, it helps brands B through D as well, because that relationship is such that if I take care of that plumber or that distributor or that engineer, because really all we have to sell is service.
Mm-hmm.
There are different faucet companies out there now. There are different valve companies. Really, the service is what we have to sell, because most everyone's product, but they have to go through code approvals and everything else like that, are good products. So if you go and take care of people and they like working with you, and all of a sudden they're not just buying brand A from you, they are buying brand B, C, D, and E at that point. And that's another key thing about being able to maintain and stay within a small market is that relationship building over years, because there's things going to happen to a rep that you can't control. You've not done anything wrong, and there's all kind of decisions made out there, whether a manufacturer decides to go, we want our own factory direct salespeople, or a merger. And it's the relationships that you've built over the years that helps you recover and weather those changes and make it through.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. We've got a bigger footprint geography wise in the utility space. We cover from Maryland, Delaware, down to Florida, over to Mississippi. I kind of honed in on one thing you said is you guys live in your territory, right? You wake up every morning and you figure out, how am I going to sell more product in Oklahoma? And I'm a big believer, I don't care what size you are, you got to have, number one, you got to have the right people. And then number two, they have to be in the territory. I want somebody in Richmond waking up every day thinking, all right, how am I going to sell more product in Virginia? If you're coming in once or twice a year, you're not accomplishing anything, in my opinion. You can be effective if you've got one customer up there, but if you're truly going to cover a territory, you need people that are living it and breathing it every day, 365. So we're a little bit bigger, and that's the way we do it. But I think we agree on the same front that you have to have people that are dedicated, living in the territory, that build those relationships over a period of time. And that gives you the ability to develop that territory. And then that's when more lines come. And then that's when you can start, you do a good job here. Okay, we need some help here. Then you can start making some business decisions. But I think the main point is that you got to have people dedicated to a particular area. 100%.
Yeah. Absolutely. And interesting point you brought up is that service, right? Service is essentially what you're selling. And as a business owner, I'd be interested to hear, how do you ensure that that service is top notch? It's probably a lot of things. Is it, how do you hire the right people, or how do you train them, or how do you ensure that the service you're providing your folks is what you want it to be, essentially?
That's a great question. And I'm definitely not an expert at that. I've had successes and failures, both, like everybody in the business world. What we strive to do is at least have an answer back to our customers in an hour or less. And the reason I say that, number one, we try to be experts in our own product, because that way we can respond quicker. But there are some times, especially with today's dynamics, the difficulties with the workforce, with everyone, sometimes our answer has to come from a manufacturer. Yeah. And the person, our contact there, may have to get an answer from someone else, who may have to get an answer from someone else. So the key is, I think, though, is as long as you're staying in communication with your customer and letting them know the steps you're taking or the difficulties that you're having in getting information, or maybe why maybe someone's out of town, keeping in contact, I think, speaks volumes, because I know, number one, that you haven't forgotten them. It's not gone cold. Their concern is also your concern. So that's one of the things that I think, as far as providing service, just try to maintain key contact. We all get busy. There's things sometimes I'll see something and I'm like, "Oh, I can't believe I forgot to do that." So I just try to immediately take care of it, apologize. Hey, just want to let you know where we're at with this situation. I think also knowledge is power. I love Schoolhouse Rock when I was a kid, and that's one phrase from it I remember. Knowledge is power. And like I said, I think the more you can be an expert with what you sell, the more benefit you are to your customer. One of the things that I really enjoy is the teaching aspect of being a rep. And I love also working with the designers and engineers. And I have a group of designers and engineers who email me or call me and ask questions, and I will get them answers, even if it's not one of my product. I even connected another rep with an engineer one time who I didn't have a product that would meet their needs. I felt like they had a good product and also have respect for that rep. I'll connect them. So I want to be the first point of contact for any type of problem they have to help them with a solution. I think that's the other part too, is just that willing to serve, willing to service our customers is key. The rep business is not for everyone. There's a lot of working parts to this. Being in a small market, we have multiple manufacturers that we work with. You have to be on your toes with who's in whose distribution center, who's in whose buying group and things like that, and help satisfy any type of needs that their customers have, whether it's with pricing, defectives. That's a big thing. Being on the spot to help troubleshoot, that goes back to knowing your product. So those are just some things that just off the top of my head, I'm thinking of that. I think that's what our customers want most. They want to know that someone's there to support them when they need it. And whereas I feel like we have thousands of SKUs to sell, maybe hundreds of thousands, our distributors have millions of things, and they can't be the expert on every single thing that they sell. But if they know someone that they can call that they know can help them out, facilitate a sale, facilitate a problem, that's where the strength of a rep can really shine.
I think that's just good business in general, right? If you're the guy always helping out as much as you can, even if it doesn't, like you're saying, you refer business, even if it doesn't directly impact your bottom line, it still helps out the customer, still helps someone find a solution that they need. And you guys, right? It's a very consultative kind of a scenario that you're usually in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Help whatever,
Absolutely.
however you can. So that's cool. You've had some big successes, big failures. Can you maybe just one of your favorite stories of one of the major successes you had in your company and kind of what led to that and what you learned from it?
I would say this last year, we had a situation where we had two major manufacturers had actually decided to do two different things. One went with factory direct reps. The other one was bought out. And then there was a lot of shifting and rep changes. And I thank God for this. I'm a believer. And there's some things that have happened last year that have been completely amazing to me that have never happened in my 20 plus career. We lost 75% of our income in November 1st of 2022. And so think about that. You've got, say you live off a $100 bill, and then all of a sudden you're living off $25. You're trying to take care of your family, your employees and their families. And what do you do? And there had been some things that had actually been in work ever since 2021 that I didn't even know that I would need, but it already started to come into play. That would be exactly what I needed when this happened. So this last year, one of my favorite things to say, and the thing that I feel really good about, one of the manufacturers that we partnered with, it's been fun working with them. It's been fun selling. They're one of the things that happened in 2021 that I didn't know how much of an impact they would be on our business to keep us going. And while we're still here today, but in about a 2.5 year period before we became their rep, I was sent what their sales numbers were. And this last between July and October, our total sales of that period was greater than what they had done that 2.5 year period. And then actually this last December, November, those sales were greater than what they had done in a 2.5 year period. So that kind of thing is fun because your back's against the wall. You're not even sure you're going to be here the next day. The way business works, this could all end tomorrow, and that's the way it is. But you know what? It's been a great ride and there's no regrets, and it's what I was meant to do now. Maybe there's something else later on, but that's one of my favorite stories I've told people about recently who ask is that, yeah, we got our legs knocked out from under us, but we had a plan. We followed it. We believed things would happen, and we were able to see some successes happen in 2023 to help ride us back. So I consider 2023 the recovery year, and then us getting back on our growth pattern this year.
Man, that's impressive. You lose a line like that, that's 75% of your
That's
business.
huge.
That's, yeah.
It was two different companies, and both manufacturers, it affected many reps. I know of one rep on one of those that had to lay off multiple people. And they are in a bigger market. And that's maybe one of the benefits to being a smaller market is impacts can be a little bit less than in larger markets because they have to service so much more and have so much more personnel that this company had to lay off more than 10 people just for one line. But yeah, it's two different companies. And like I said, it's, I've never felt like I shouldn't still be doing this. That's one thing that's kept me going. I never felt like I needed to go search for something else right now or anything. I've been doing this for 20 something years. I know how to do this. I believed in the manufacturers and I believed in my sales team. That's the other thing too. You talk about success. I shouldn't even be talking anymore without saying the sales team I have, the people I have on my team that do the things they do. And I tell them how important every one of them they are, because if the inside salesperson is not taking care of order entry and customer service issues, then the outside salespeople can't be out trying to generate new business. If the outside salespeople isn't out generating new business, the inside salespeople won't have any orders to enter or customers to take care of. Or if the quotations person is not putting out new quotes, then the outside salespeople won't have jobs to go hunt and try to earn the business. So I know a lot of times, a lot of companies, people are segmented and some people hire elevation to certain departments. But for us, it's strictly everyone's on the equal playing field. And I associate like with football. Yeah, we know who the stars are, but you're not going to get VIP if your offensive line isn't there to block. So that's a big key to success. It is your team. And I couldn't have done all this without them. So I definitely want to say that too.
Two things. I'm big on sports analogies. I think every one of them I've always incorporated into our podcast, but we believe the same thing at NTS. It's a truly a team sport, being a manufacturer's rep. And just because you don't take a right guard and put them out at wide receiver, but they're both equally important because they both got a job to do to win the game. And 100%, I think you hit the nail on the head. And I think the successful reps out there are the ones that realize that, hey, inside sales is just as important as outside sales and vice versa. But we can't do it without each other. And we all got to be running the same play. You do your job, and then we all get it across the goal line. But the second thing is, and you talked about going back to the 75% piece, that's what keeps, I think, a lot of us as reps up at night, are these things you can't control, these manufacturers that get bought out. And we've all been through it, right? And I think we've all probably been through it where you might win, you might get that line. There's two different reps, you get the line, but there's a lot of times you don't. It's not a matter of, hey, this rep maybe did a better job than you. Sometimes it's just the politics behind it. The big guy buys a little guy, then it all of a sudden, it just works out that way. But sometimes it doesn't work like that. And that's the part that I think your mentality of, okay, we're going to pick ourselves up by the bootstraps and we're going to work as a team and we're going to dig out of this. And it sounds like you guys are poised for more growth in 2024. So I think that's awesome. That's a heck of a story to tell.
I enjoy telling it. And another side note too, I just thought of, that's also cool, that another great thing about being in a small market is even your competitors are friends. And we actually gained 5 new lines from 3 other rep agencies. And a couple of them approached me as soon as they had heard what the second company, when the decision was made. I had 2 approach me that same month saying, hey, one had a situation to where they had a merger. So they were having to make a decision. Hey, and they were like, would you be interested in this line? And yes. Another one was actually a product line that we had been the rep before I had merged, and when it was back with the original Cornerstone name. And he said, it's really doesn't fit. And what I do is more commercial engineer design product. He goes, would you want it back? I said, absolutely. And then the third one, an owner of a rep company in Oklahoma, actually sold out to a larger firm in Texas. And he called me this last August and said, hey, I'm selling out. I haven't fully announced it yet. Just want to know if there are any of my lines that you want. And he named off 4 of them, and we were able to join forces with 3. So even that that's one of those things, like I said, like things that I've never seen in my life. What other industry, what other territory does your competition actually help support you and help you get back on your feet? That's just a real cool testimony to the people we have here in Oklahoma. So
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's, and I think it's the rep community as a whole. There's always friendly competition out there, and I think it makes us all better. Number one, we've experienced the same things, and it's a unique community when you're talking about the reps, and that's a neat story. Talking about that right there, that's cool.
Yeah. Micah, I know we're a little bit past time here. We appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else that you wanted to share maybe with the audience that you've learned, or maybe if people have questions, maybe they're in a similar situation as you and they want to reach out and chat and get your perspective on things? How can people reach you? And we'll just close out with that.
yeah, first I'm on LinkedIn. That's how you found me.
Yep.
So Micah Moseley, CPMR. For any rep, I definitely am a big proponent of CPMR. That's a Certified Professional Manufacturers Representative course. When I took it, it was in Austin. I think years ago it was in Indiana and even at times in Phoenix. It's a 3-year program and it's helped me out. Some things I found out I was doing okay, and some things I found out I needed to change or have a different perspective on. So they can reach me. I don't know if you can give my number out.
It's totally up to you.
Yeah, I'd probably start out with an email, Micah, MICAH at cornerstonesales.net. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, and then we can schedule a conversation, I'll be happy to. I love helping people out. So if they have any questions or anything, I'll give my half a cent of information. I don't even know if it's a full 2 cents, but yeah, anything I can do for anybody sounds great.
That's cool.
Well, we appreciate it, Micah, for
Yeah.
jumping on here and chatting with us. It's a fun conversation.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much. It was nice to meet you.
It was fun. Nice to meet y'all. Stay in touch and hope it was helpful and it'll help somebody. So appreciate it.